the December Parish Council meeting. Let's make a start. 7 o'clock, so any apologies for absence?
So Malcolm, also Jonathan.
Okay.
And heard from Charlie, so she may still come in.
Okay. Next item is declarations of interests. If I can go,
As well.
yeah, so Parish Hall and Council.
Do we need to do shop?
Do we have to do shop?
No, we have got something for the shop.
Yeah, there is one thing which is actually not on the agenda actually. But
so just to let members know, we had come in just after the agenda was set the invoice for the settlement of the retention from the shop, which we have had. I'll go into the detail when we get there, but there is an additional invoice relating to Ashley Baker's payment of retention monies. Okay.
Tracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone's had the minutes of the November meeting. Are there any amendments that anyone has? If not, Council propose them as a true and accurate record for me to sign. Tracy, thank you. The second. All those in favour, please show. We don't have any members of the public tonight, so no public session. And we don't have any planning matters, so nothing on planning. Which brings us straight to Owen and the Clerk's report.
Well, nothing specifically other than the report from the surgery, really, which is actually itemised as a separate item. But I'll do it here. Basically, we had a surgery yesterday morning. We had about 4 people in total yesterday morning. Yeah, 4, including Kim as well. And yeah, we had a lot of the previous issues. There's one footpath, A10, which is a footpath that the resident was having an issue with. You probably know more about that than I do. We had enforcement for the planning application. There seemed to be a previous condition which has not been met, in spite of the fact that the latest application has been approved. So there was a concern from one of the residents that shouldn't the previous application conditions be set first before the next one is agreed. And again, Bob probably can give us more indication on the enforcement process than I'm able to. Somebody was querying speeding past horses. There's an issue in the village apparently. People driving far too fast past horses. So it's something we need to perhaps consider for another agenda. We had got a contact now for the PCSO, somebody called Millie Hale, 6113. So we now got a contact for that, which is quite useful because I had no contact prior to yesterday. Further complaints about lane subsidence, which of course has been ongoing actually for quite a long time. And I think they're doing some patching in, but it is patching in rather than solving the overall problem. And then we had another resident in Burton Row who has raised, again, not for the first time, drainage issues on his property, which he claims are caused in some part by the highways issues. So you know, quite a few issues there, and some of those might need to go on the agenda for discussion. I suspect the drainage is being dealt with anyway, and the substance. I mean, they're both the county know about those, both of those. I would say. So I'm not sure how much we could actually add to that, really.
No, there was one other person who came who almost made it into the room, but then didn't quite. Who raised a couple of issues, which were relating to the town gutter and the fact that the drainage board haven't done some of the clearance this year. At the moment, that's the bit that runs on Brent Street from the bottom of Church Lane through to the Red Cow and beyond. So next time on the drainage board, I'll be raising that with them just to chase up their contractors, the bits they're responsible for. And the other question was raised was whether or not now, I think the Knoll Run happened in the last couple of weeks. Last year there were some stakes that were left sticking up, and the question was asked whether the stakes this year had been removed. I don't know whether anyone's been up that way, but if anyone's doing the footpath walk, you can keep your eye open for that sort of Knoll Run route just to make sure they haven't left their markers in the ground that they did last year. On the planning one that was raised, the query was, as you'll remember, there was a planning application for a couple of barns to go up, which are for agricultural use. And there was some concern at the time of the applications from residents that they may not be used for agricultural purposes. The concern that was raised with a couple of members of the public who came was that they don't believe that some of the barns are being used for agricultural purposes, and wondered whether we should be notifying Somerset's enforcement to at least take a look at it and check that things are being done in line with what they got permission for. So that was the issue they raised on that.
And are we empowered to do that?
We certainly can. I mean, we can certainly pass on that to enforcement, and they will add it to their list of ones to come out and look at. So I'm happy that we do that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
From memory of when we passed that, we were all concerned about.
Yes.
Yeah. Came across a couple of times.
And the footpath one I mentioned when we get to the footpaths anyway. Okay.
Nothing else as far as the clerk is concerned?
Do you want, under that sort of correspondence, is that the place to take the bleed and sluice?
Yeah, so I've got it listed as Lymsham. I've called it Lymsham sluice, actually. It's not Lymsham sluice, it's bleeding sluice, isn't it? Yeah. There were two items of correspondence. One was that one, and the other one was some guiding requests for assistance. And of course, I think as I pointed out in the emails I sent, it's not within our powers, of course, to give individuals grants. Although I suppose, if the council was minded, they could give something to the guides, I guess.
Yeah. Or the other possibility would be whether we use some of the funding from the charity account.
Yeah.
Is this to be discussed now?
No, that's item of correspondence. The grant discussions will be at our next meeting, because at the moment in the Brent Knoll News for the December one, we've asked people to put in their bids for grants, so then we can consider all of them at the same time, so we don't cut somebody off because they're not in time. The deadline hasn't gone yet for the grant applications.
So far we haven't had any at all. So,
okay, on the bleeding sluice, just to update you as to what the background is to this, trying to keep it as brief as possible. It was raised at Weir Parish Council, where one of their representatives had gone along to a briefing about the new reservoir that being talked about at Cheddar. And at that briefing, it was said that the bleeding sluice potentially might be being removed because it's been not working for a while, and they thought it was a way of getting rid of it. It's been an ongoing problem since, as was mentioned earlier, that it broke, and there was a big argument between the EA and Bristol Water as to whose responsibility and whose funding it was going to be down to. So it sat not doing very much. The Weir Parish's concern was because of where they are in terms of level of flood, potentially if there were a breach, was that if there is no bleeding sluice and something went wrong with the Breen one, that's the secondary line of defence, or would be if it was functional, and taking it out leaves everybody on the danger that if Breen goes, then we all potentially are paddling. So they wanted clarification as to what was happening, and it was raised by them, and it's been circulated through other parish councils. It's been brought up with the EA and with the internal drainage boards as to what their views are. But it was really just making parishes aware that this is a situation that could cause a problem, and I think they were looking for some support to say that we were in agreement with other parishes that the EA and the IDBs need to be sorting this out and shouldn't just take it as an easy solution to say, oh yes, we'll just get rid of it. They need to do a bit more work to work out what its role should be and what happens if something goes wrong.
Can we write a letter voicing our support for that then? Because I'm guessing that we would think that was a good idea.
So if members are happy that we do that, then at least it will show that there are other parishes that are concerned about the effects.
Maybe a bigger voice might. Yeah. They'd have to listen.
Okay. So Proposed by Amanda, seconded. Amy, all those in favour?
Okay.
That's clearly carried. Thank you. That moves us, if there's nothing else. Okay. Working group, so footpath teams, anything from the general footpaths?
No, they're very muddy, that's all.
There was a request for a Bristol Gate at the farm. There was an email from Owen, I think.
Oh yeah, that was a couple of months ago, yeah.
So that's up at the Diamonds Hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to say something about it? Or
Yeah.
not?
I think if
We didn't
Nick Diamond asked me about it because she said that they've got an old wooden gate there, which most people are familiar with. They'd had a bolt through it and a padlock, and somebody had forced that and gone in there and took their quad bike and attempted to take a car and stuff like that. And she was having trouble securing it, so she said if they had a proper metal gate, it would be much easier for her to secure it and chain it up. So I think I emailed you, didn't I? And I said, or I rang you, and I said to her to email as well. And I said we'd probably try and get that and get it fitted.
I'm happy that we approach Sunset to get another Bristol Gate.
Yes.
Okay.
Resist.
Yes.
And while we're up on Hill Road, Mr. Chairman, can I just, what is the situation regarding locking of the car park gates? Because I go through there most mornings, and people are parking overnight. Somebody's coming up someone's parking a car overnight. They're coming up in the morning, parking their car, and taking the one that's been parked there overnight.
He lives there.
It's the baker's car.
It's
The baker's car.
what? The black Porsche.
Yes, it's the baker's. It's Ollie Baker's car.
I wish somebody.
Yeah, no, they have told us about it.
Oh, well,
I think
yeah.
the problem is that the low slung car has a problem getting along the drive to their house because it's so uneven.
Yeah,
So they've been parking there.
Okay.
yeah,
At
for
least
quite a while now.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
it looks most peculiar that someone should
yeah, no, yeah. she
drive
did
a car
say
there,
that.
take that one,
Yeah, no,
and
that's
swap it overnight.
Yeah.
Just look bonkers to me. But okay, that's fine.
They have been helping with doing the locking
Yeah.
at night. They unlock some mornings. We have other volunteers who do the unlocking in the morning as well.
Right,
So.
thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, since we replaced the padlock, because the padlock was replaced straight away, Bob reset it, so it's been being locked for a little while now, isn't it? So it's locked and unlocked every morning.
Is the combination the same?
It is the same. Yeah, we had a problem that just remembers if you weren't aware that the lock that we had on there suddenly seized and wasn't working properly, so Amanda managed to get it sorted under guarantee, so we've got the replacement of the lock and it's back up there now, working as before. The other path that was mentioned was this AX810, which is the path off Wick Lane, which heads over the railway line and then towards Lymsham. There are some problems there with gates. There's another farm gate which potentially requires a Bristol gate to go in there. What I was going to suggest was it sounded like there was more than one gate that needed sorting, so whether we can arrange for a member or members of the footpath team to have a walk of that path, and we can work out what it is that is required, and would members be happy that we, where it is necessary to replace gates, that we get on and ask Chris. We do have a couple in store as well that we can make use of, so are we happy that we try and get that path up and running?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on footpaths? Okay. Highways.
No, just the usual.
Yeah.
The usual.
Sorry. One of the parish members was expressing concerns about the work that they're going to do for the airport, the dual carriageway up to the airport. And there seems to be some confusion that they think the bottom of the road here is going to take the main weight of the traffic off of the Burnham roundabout. I'll try to go online to see if I could find some images to send them, and I couldn't find any. Not sure I'm looking in the right place.
Certainly the proposals that are put forward is for changes at Edenley roundabout. There is no proposal for any change to the Fox and Goose Junction at all. and then the next set of changes are further up, sort of Rooks Bridge, and then across. So there's no change to.
Sort of all that way, isn't it?
Yes. The only thing that the big bit that affects us will be the evening roundabout, but the plan there at the moment, the hope is that it will be underway in 2026 if the funding is confirmed shortly, and that's what they're waiting for final sign off. They are ready to go once they know they've got the money.
Is there somewhere I can go, because I couldn't find it, to find the images that I can actually give to direct this member to?
Okay, I'll check the Somerset if there certainly was when they were consulting. Whether it's still up, I don't know, but okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Just one thing to mention, it's only going to affect the next couple of days, but we've had notification come through that they are about to connect the water main to the new properties opposite the parish hall, so there will be cones along Brent Street stopping people parking and part of the road being dug up. So that's likely to be Thursday. Thursday, Friday.
Thursday morning they started, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what time?
8:30 they told me they're there.
Yes. So the Bristol Water did notify us as the people who were at the toilet. We passed a copy to the shop, and I know the parish hall were written to separately by them to notify them as well. So they do seem to have notified neighbours. Okay. Who was on the Village Green rota?
Lady, because you filled a gap, didn't you?
Yeah, but I was looking for the form, because I asked to send the form through to me so I can mark everything
You
down.
made some notes?
Well, I did on my computer, but my computer's gone.
Well, you just scribbled them, so when I put it on that sheet.
But yeah, the field's in such a state sometimes with the kids playing. It'd be nice to get an extra bin here if we can, where the netball thing is, whatever it is. There, if we can have another bin there, because that's where most of the rubbish is. It accumulates there because they're playing football or whatever, and then they just burn on the floor. But if there's a bin there, I think they would put it in. Also, when you watch them play football, if we can get an extended net upwards on that, because it's coming over and they're going to break them tiles eventually on the hall and the shop and the toilets. The gutter's busted already on the shop where the balls have hit it. So whether we can extend that up, the netting up to a higher height to stop the balls going over. There's one thing to look at if we can. Apart from that, everything else, obviously, same old problems with the matting and stuff like that. But no, it's looking good. The toilets, 3 people moaned at me about the toilets. Well, not moaned at me, said, "Oh, your toilets are dirty." I said, "Look," I said, "I'm sorry, but," I said, "Monday morning they're clean, perfectly spotless." I said, "Then Wednesday they come in and do it for free." I said, "So it's done twice a week." I said, "Look," I said, "Look at that over there." I said, "That's what's causing it. All them builders coming into the toilets, and it's a mess." Poor little Jane and her husband, they're ripping their hair out because they're trying their best to keep it as clean as they can. If they do go past it, they said they might pop in and do it. And I said, "Well, no," I said, "because you should be getting paid for it. You should be doing it." And one builder came in the shop, and I asked him if they could start tidying it up a little bit, But they said, "Well, we've got no toilets on site."
They should be putting toilets on site.
Yes.
It should do, because there's more than
There's a lot
4
of them there
builders.
though, aren't there? No, they're
If it's more than 4 builders on a building site, like 1 house or 2 houses, then they have to.
Is it worth us putting a letter to
Well,
the developer?
I did speak to the developer actually, and I spoke to the guy actually, and he said they would make an effort to try and improve the situation.
They have, yeah, some of them have.
And I did point out the fact that as a developer they really ought to have a Portaloo facility.
It's part of the health and safety.
Yeah.
It's probably since it's been wet, because it was over the summer, it was alright, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now it's got wet, they're trouncing wet mud in across the floor, that's what it, the actual toilets themselves were alright, it's the floor, it's mud on the floor.
Also, we've had a problem with one of the taps. I see Ashley the other day, had a quick look actually. I popped in and he was there. And it's like a little rubber seal sticks. So I lubricated it, I moved it, and it's working fine now. And he said, just keep an eye on it, and just spray some liquid in there just to lubricate it. But apart from that, toilets are pretty good.
Just one thing in terms of the cleaners, they are contracted Monday and Friday. They do
Yeah,
it
sorry,
Wednesdays,
yeah,
the
yeah,
third visit.
Yes, yeah, they do
Yeah.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
But from what I can understand, do they have to have the toilets provided? Because there are public toilets. And from what I understand, if there's public toilets nearby, they don't need to provide
Should be
other
to site.
toilets.
Should be to site.
Should it?
That was the reason I was given when I spoke to them. They said,
Yeah.
"Oh, of course, that's the problem. You've got public toilets right
Yes,
opposite."
yeah.
You know,
But they're going to be tarmacking, and I must admit, Jamie and her husband said they were quite concerned because if tarmac gets into our toilets, they're going to be doing deep cleans.
I suppose we can't stop them from using it, can we, or can we?
No,
so,
no. Other than asking them to take their shoes off before they go in.
So we're going to be open in the next couple of weeks because he's moving in 2 weeks' time. That's what he's open to.
right.
So that
Yeah,
will
it
be.
can't be for much longer. Do you know what, if I go into the shop and I want muddy boots on, I take them off and leave them outside.
Yeah.
Walk through.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't walk muddy,
No,
would you?
no.
I had a couple of people complain about the mud on the road. There was a few people wrote to me and asked about the state of the road. And when I popped into the shop, I think about a week or so ago, and the lady in the shop said to me, "I'm not doing anything." I said, "You might not be here on the right days." You know, so.
I mean, when they are doing building work, you do see them at the vans cleaning the road, don't you? They make mess.
I mean, we know it's a short-term problem, of course. That problem will go once the development's finished, basically, I guess.
Okay.
So that's okay. Thanks, Lady, for that. I'm actually down for November, for December, so I'll do the December ones. I chose December because it's the one with least activity on the green.
Is this the right place to raise the issue about the annual inspection?
Could do, yeah, because although it's on the agenda, when I was.
Oh, sorry,
No,
yes.
no, I think I put it on there actually.
Yes, you're
So
right.
it is,
Sorry.
yeah, so that's, yeah,
I'll
just,
leave it.
that's a small point really.
Okay, so that brings us on to audit staffing,
No meetings?
shop liaison group,
No meetings?
flood action group, contract review group.
That's all, we agreed last month that we did JP Mayer contract and also the contract for the toilet cleaning within cleans. We agreed both of those and I've written to both of them telling them that they've got a contract, 3 years with annual reviews, and then come January I'll write a formal contract to them which I'll get them signed and send back to us. So we'll have it in writing and properly signed.
Amanda.
The flood action group was actually supposed to be what, AD and I went to that.
No, it's further down.
Further on the
Oh, is that on a
Yeah,
different one?
yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, right. As you were.
That's right. No worries. IT.
Well, now, the only thing to say about that is I think some difficulty getting people together to make decisions about this because this Dan Sabater from Aubergine gave me some dates originally and they weren't very convenient for anybody. Charlie and Jonathan, I was hoping to get them involved because obviously they're on the IT group. But so far I've been yet to get a cohesive date because the problem is that we are running out of time a little bit because as we get into the new year, Decision Power won't be operating our website anymore.
Where are Aubergine based?
Well, Aubergine are up in the Midlands area actually.
But it's not the Zoom, wasn't
It's
it?
going to be a Zoom call. And all they want to do is just run through, because I've said to them that we agree we're going with Aubergine, but we need to just tidy up one or two of the bits of detail, how it's going to, effectively materialise, and particularly the .gov.uk thing as well. So really, it's just a question of where we get a date together for at least, I think it needs to be three or four people, really, ideally. Obviously, Charlie and Jonathan have been on the group. Jonathan's quite hard to tie down sometimes to a specific date. So I don't know what we want to do. Actually, I mean, I sent out the dates again today. I moved them off to you to see whether any of those were any good. But it is a decision of the council. It's not something I can deal with without the council being involved.
Well, you feel as if you can't.
I just can't. I mean, there are too many literally local detail that I don't feel I'm really able to
So
deal with.
do you need everybody then, or do you need?
I think we can, at this stage, it will take us anybody who will come on it, basically.
But you're going to send out details of dates.
Yeah, I sent them out earlier on.
The dates are out.
Yeah.
So if you could just let me know if any of those dates are suitable, so I can get a bit of a consensus about who the most, which date is the most suitable for as many people.
Just as
So at the moment, Charlie and Jonathan are saying the 9th.
No, okay. 9th of December. Which is only
No,
which
it's-
way
No,
next week?
my only suggestion is for our January meeting, could we not meet a bit earlier, say 6:30, all of us here, and have a Zoom call?
Could we do
Yeah,
that?
with
Cool,
them.
yeah.
So
I mean,
Put it on there.
and then we'll all be here, and then we have
Yeah.
our picture taken afterwards.
That's a good idea. That's a good suggestion, actually. Yeah.
I mean,
Should we go with that?
Yeah.
If I can get to Aubergine to type, because I'm giving them plenty of notice now, I'm giving them a month.
Yeah.
So it should be all right for that.
yeah, I mean, presumably we can accept Zoom or whatever here.
I mean, the Wi-Fi is fine in here, so
Yeah, okay.
And now I've got a shiny new laptop, that should
Yeah.
make life a bit easier.
Okay, that's good.
Okay,
Everyone happy with that?
all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Policy updates.
Positive, no policy update.
Okay, quick update from Somerset. We've had an auditor report that's flagged up a couple. You remember last year there were a couple of issues that were raised by the auditors which related to the speed at which the transformation programme was happening. Those same two flags have been flagged this year. But in addition to that, there's another issue that's been raised. You may have seen some coverage on the local media about the Life Factory project, the Red Brick building in Glastonbury, I think it is. Basically what happened was it's one of these town deal funds where government gave money to what was Mendip Council originally to do various projects. This was the large one in that side. It was supposed to be, I think, approximately £10 million coming from government and match funding coming locally. What appears to have happened is the management of it has been passed to Somerset because we're the custodian trustee of the money. We're the ones who have got ultimate responsibility for it. Unfortunately, what's happened is that work has commenced and bills have been paid and all the money that came from government has been used, but the money that was supposed to have been raised locally was never raised locally. So we've now got to the point where some of the builders and contractors have put in bills that now are not being met because there is no funding. And so there is an issue going on with that. It's possible, I understand, I think that the main body that were running this may well be going into liquidation. And so there is the concern the auditors have raised is, whilst it wasn't our job to actually manage it, we were supposed to be keeping overall an eye on handing down money. And the questions are being asked as well, why was it handed down when this other money wasn't in place? And what monitoring has there been done during the issue? So that is something that the auditors have flagged up, and there is an emergency audit meeting at Somerset this week, and it will be going to full council next week with some explanations as to what's been happening and where they go from now. Ultimately, the worst case scenario potentially would be government could turn and say, we've mismanaged it, we want our money back, in which case Somerset would be potentially on the tune for the money that's already been spent.
Plus completion.
If it gets completed. At the moment it's just sitting there going nowhere more. So yeah, it's not good. Planning, you'll remember, I think I mentioned last month that there was talk about the introduction of a new director covering planning. That has now gone ahead. So there is a temporary 1-year appointment for a director covering planning. That was a role that was originally in the plans that were put forward by the council. When they changed the structure last time, that role was removed. They're now saying they believe they actually need one, so that will be about £250,000 worth of costs and on costs, because obviously it's an agency person who's been brought in. The person who's coming in sounds like they've done a similar job in various other authorities, coming in trying to sort out planning authorities. So that will be happening over the next. I think he's starting 2 days a week up until Christmas, and then starting full time in the new year. Quick reminder, and Owen's aware of it anyway, but there's been an update in terms of costs for elections that parishes need to make sure they've got provision. We have been putting money aside for the parish for some time. Not all parishes do, but the cost of running elections is now higher than it used to be under the districts. So there is now the likely cost of an election for an authority our sort of size is somewhere between £3,500 and £5,000. If it's held, so that would be for a by-election, if it's held on the same day as the unitary's election, then obviously, like in the past, we get to share some of the overheads, like the hires of the hall, the cost of the officers who are in actually monitoring people voting. So that's something that is just being flagged, but other parishes particularly haven't got that in provision. Sunday parking charges, you'll remember we were looking into that. Actually hot off the press today has been full council. No, it hasn't. They've been executive. The executive decided they are not currently going to introduce Sunday charges, basically because there was a huge response to the public consultation from both members of the public, from local businesses and from other councils, towns and parishes. They have taken that on board, but the plan now is to carry out a review of the whole of the parking policy and to come back sometime in the new year. So it's not yet, but we'll wait and see what happens when that policy is reviewed. I think that probably, other than, I think we've got on the agenda, haven't we, a bit about the Boundary Commission?
Yeah.
So I don't need to do that. One other thing, just as an interesting one, which might be something we might want to look at in the future, Somerset is rolling out their electric vehicle charging policy and partnership. So they've got into partnership with a company called Blink Charging UK. Government is offering something in the region of £3.5 million to help get charging points around the country, and Somerset's got its £3.5 million to help us. Somerset has negotiated with the contractors and with government that normally the commercial companies basically want to put these in big urban areas. Somerset has negotiated that at least 25% of these actual charging points must be in more rural areas. So that is something they will be doing and rolling out and looking for places that might be interested. So it will come out in due course with further consultation. So it's something we may well want to look at, because following further discussions later tonight, we might be in a position to have the ability to have a charging point, whereas where it be today, we actually wouldn't be in that position because there's not the ability to take those sort of power charges in everywhere. There isn't that sort of surplus, so it might be something we might be able to take advantage of. So it's worth just having it in the back of your mind. Other than that, happy to take any other questions relating to Somerset. Yes.
So what was the advantage of moving to unitary?
So
let summary. We sold off all the properties from the other to cover the debt. We're still in debt.
Yes.
We've, in the transfers, mismanaged.
Yeah.
So our standard question.
Yeah. I think the argument would be that had we not gone unitary, the county council would have hit the buffers almost that same year, because they obviously used the district money to tide themselves over. The commercial properties that are being sold off were all district commercial properties, because county never did any commercial investments themselves. So we would have had a 114 notice in the county had it not gone unitary. There are savings that are coming through in terms of the staffing, but it is not. Technically, they've saved more than they planned to save, but the other costs that have come with it have actually outweighed a lot of the savings that we've made. So we've still got major problems with adult and children's social care, which is basically pulling everything else down with it. And until government get a hold of that, we are in difficulty. The Chief Finance Officer was telling us today at the executive meeting that there had been a hope that the previous government and this government had both talked about a fairer funding formula for local government. That was supposed to be coming through, and the idea was that it would help counties like ourselves because we tended to have lesser grants than others. The initial response we had from government seemed to be implying that we were going to be slightly better off, not by a huge amount, but a bit. The information that was given today was there had been a bit of a change in that position because it looked like the London boroughs were going to lose a fair bit of their grant because they've always had more than everywhere else. That position has now changed, and all that Somerset is being told is that they are probably going to be similar to where we were, or we could even be slightly worse off in terms of government grant. But they won't know that for another couple of weeks until government actually put the final figures out. So there are difficulties at a national level, and you may also have heard recently there's this issue about SEND educational costs. Currently we are sitting with tens of millions of pounds off our books of previous costs on SEND, which government allowed you to sort of park. That was due to be sorted in 2026. We've now heard that's not going to be happening in 2026. But if all the authorities that have got their off-books money from SEND had to put it on their books, basically a number would hit the 114 buffer straight away. So government are talking about taking over SEND from 2028, the special educational needs funding. But what happens in the meantime, they still haven't told us. So there is a big hole, and it still feels like it's getting bigger. Financial report for the parish council.
Fine. On a smaller scale. No, that's very important.
Yeah.
Statutory payments for December 2025 are those that we approved back in March 5th, under minute number 24123. These were our statutory payments, and they all remain as were planned back in March. No changes to that. So they'll obviously come up for renewal again first quarter of the new year. And then consider the variable payments listing, of course, is that the new council laptop, PC and office software setup, etc. In total comes out at 568. Now the breakdown of that is the laptop was 509. I managed to secure and source a single license office program without going down the subscription route, which of course is much more expensive. That would cost you sort of £85 a year. My PC man managed to source for me a Microsoft copy, which does exactly what we needed to do for £18.99, one-off payment. So considerable saving there actually. And surprisingly, I managed to get it set up. He had to come out. I had some problems with my Outlook. It wouldn't transfer from the old laptop, so he had to come out and spend a couple of hours.
The software. If you'd have paid the full price, you wouldn't have had that.
Yeah, well, actually, I wouldn't. Because in fact, it was the old machine that was the problem, not the new one. So we were transferring a very old program from 2010, which didn't like the new software. So, but anyway, he solved the problem and also tuned it all up and got it all working fine at a cost of a couple of hours labour. And so there it is. It's all running, working, and yeah, shiny and new. So it should do us for certainly for my time. Anyway. So that 568.95 is the total. Then we've got a Legion wreath payment, 25, and Jubilee room hire of £77, which is in line. It follows on June, July, September, up to September, I think, up to the end of September. So they always do a little bit behind on the whole thing. They don't tend to invoice monthly. It tends to be sort of quarterly or 4 monthly generally. So yeah, just the 3 payments this month actually.
Okay, so we start with those 3 and then we'll talk about the retention money.
Yeah.
So are members happy that we pay the three that have been outlined? All those in favour, please show. That's clearly carried. And then the retention.
The retention money, yeah, I had an email today from Ashley, obviously very anxious now to have his final bill paid, obviously that we retained. The retention fee was 5657, which we put into our reserves, and that is exactly what he's invoiced us for, 5657, plus VAT of 1131, which of course we can reclaim.
Can you just confirm the meeting that we had with Paul Martin?
Yeah, we met up with Paul and Ashley, and David came with them as well, just to make sure there were no issues that had to be resolved before we made the payment. Paul Martin is now satisfied and written to me confirming it, that they're happy.
That's the key question. Has he issued a certificate of making good defects? If so, then the money can be released. So we don't have to decide.
Basically, I think Paul was of the view that it's the first time he's ever been to a development where he actually had nothing to raise. Everything was actually okay, apart from one small drainage issue in the loos within the shop, which has now been resolved. So there were no other matters that had to be sorted. Now the point is, of course, as I did point out to Ashley, because he only came in today with it, of course it's not on our agenda, and of course with a large amount like that, it really should be on as an agenda item. Having said that, he came back to me quite reasonably just before the meeting, saying that he is a small business, you know, and it's a large amount of money to withhold until 7th of January. So I discussed it with Bob, and so we put it to the meeting to decide whether you're happy, bearing in mind we've already allocated it anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose that, subject to Paul Martin having signed everything off, and there's nothing untoward or any remedial work still to be required, that the money is released to Ashley, because he's done a thoroughly good job for us, and I think it's only right that, being a small business, he gets his money on time.
I second it.
So,
Okay,
All those in favour of that, please show.
that will be paid tomorrow then, okay? So, and just one small item of administration is Bob and Amanda perhaps, I need to transfer some funds from the reserve account, because we keep that quite tight these days. So we need to transfer some funds across. So, yeah, thank you for that. What are we on next?
Other financial matters.
Other financial matters. Payment list for November. This is something I started last month, of course, sending you the payment list for the previous month. Something we are now required to do. So what you get every month is a scribe report that shows all the payments that were made. And one thing I would like to just explain on there is an overpayment of Clark's salary, which I paid, once I discovered it, paid it back very quickly. Unity Trust made an error. I thought it was a very generous bonus on the part of Brent Knoll Parish Council. And so as soon as I discovered it in my own bank account, I paid it back through backs within 24 hours that day. So it's now back in the system. Okay, so it's just a blip there, which, yeah, I need to find somewhere showing that to the auditor as well. The auditor might want to know about that. So I might miss an explanation ready for that one. But yeah, that's the payment list.
Budget discussion.
And then budget discussion, plug in. We started the discussions last month. I haven't changed fundamentally what we were talking about. And whether you've had a chance to think about the original sheet I sent you. And I'll get this in. Well, talk amongst yourself a moment. No.
Too late.
It did just now, because I just said it wrong. That's it. Right. Okay.
That's quite a nice picture, that's better than the budget.
Do you like that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just organise yourself a bit while I get used to the. Why is it not showing that? It's that, isn't it? There. Should be. Sure. It's on my screen, but not on your screen. For some reason.
That's better.
Sorry? Just come out of what was going and see what we can get to.
You need to go into screens and settings. You've probably got to set it up for dual screen.
I've had it on dual screen already this evening because I did the introduction on there.
So you need to set it from one for single.
That's it.
No, because every time I go near it, I've got to get an IT.
It's down the bottom on the left hand side, isn't it?
Can you?
That's your dual one there, isn't it? That's what's got a little box in the corner.
I think that's it.
No, you-
Is that no?
no,
That's charge a second.
comes up there, isn't it? Very odd.
That's what white is. It's got a little box in the bottom, isn't it?
Any ideas, David?
No.
It's
Well, it's
not-
good to have the idea. So we had it on earlier, didn't we? We had the welcome screen and it was all working fine. So it's there, it's just how we get it to here.
Is it on your screen?
It was on my
It's
screen,
on
yes.
Yeah. So here, Owen's screen is not showing that picture, it's showing fully complete.
Look, that's the budget you see showing on the screen here, look. But it's not coming up on here.
What's on the Excel, if you click on? Oh.
Well, I've got-
Because that Excel box there just bounced.
Yeah.
Excel?
Yeah, that's really on.
Yeah.
New budget.
That's really strange, isn't it?
Well, can you say go into your settings into the screen? That's what it is. It's that.
It's one right here for the HDMI things. Let's change it.
IT. Never catch on.
No, I think you're right.
Go back to menus. I remember they were telling us we'd have less work with computers.
Thing is now, if you've got Apple, I don't understand any of that now, because you say you set Apple.
Because if it hadn't worked,
Yeah,
I
my
would say,
son's got
oh,
like
no, something's not right.
I call that
Yeah.
mine, like,
Microsoft.
yeah. So confusing, compared to,
So it's come up on the screen, and you've got that just popped up, but you're now looking
the
at
settings bunch.
the settings. That's what I meant. You can't see that. You can see that.
No.
We'll see someone come out of the house in a minute.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to want to move from that screen.
The shopping
Is
basket.
it lab the hope is coming?
Yeah.
Just what I was going to say. Go over the bridge, over the mountains.
I'm not even sure where that is actually.
Wherever it is. It's Cotswold. It's got to be a Cotswold. That's stone. It's got to be in
I
there.
don't know, is it, because the
Castle
hill at
Hill.
the back, that could be Dunstone.
Castle Kill.
Is it?
Really?
On that,
Looks like it.
with the hill, has it got that hill?
Tracy and I are in agreement.
Castle Crew ain't got a bridge yet, like that. Have they?
I don't know. I don't know.
Nothing's that you do on there seems to transmit to there.
No. Although it is reacting there, because as I say, these things have changed. As you were, when you were looking at Excel, that came up with a bigger.
It's like Andy said, it's a screen sharing type thing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
Issue.
Ah,
Oh,
Oh, something
something
happened.
changed.
Yeah.
Changing this way.
Right.
we found it. Is that it?
Yeah. Castle Kill.
Because what's also
What's
missing there-
Okay, if you could do some other pictures, because there's a quiz.
Yeah.
Which are not yet showing.
10 points over here, this is Tracy and Colin.
Yeah.
They got it right.
No. I might have to talk you through this.
And I think we were suggesting potentially that we can't finalise a decision tonight because Owen hasn't been notified yet from Somerset as to what the,
No information from it.
Okay.
you know, normally they give us the figures as to how many houses there are and how many
Yeah.
equivalent band
Oh, right.
needs. We haven't had that come through yet, so if it had gone to plan, the plan was to try and more or less finish what we've got in budget, but having to sort out our precept at the next meeting, but we can.
I can probably talk you through. I can probably talk you through the majority of it. I mean, it's only a question of whether the budget themselves needs changing from the last time I sent the information out, because I haven't changed anything since the November meeting. So the budget you received before that meeting, it still stands. There's nothing's changed.
Charlie put a few questions in which you responded to.
That's right. Yeah, and there was a few, and Bob had a look at it, and there was a few calculation cell issues that hadn't quite transferred, which we corrected. But the numbers are the same now as they were in November. In other words, the end of the budget, which I'm happy to go through. What I can do, if it helps you before the January meeting, I'll just send this whole thing to you, so you can have another look at it before January.
Thank you. Well, the screensaver, is it? Because that's a screensaver, that, isn't it?
At the
It's
the
not
audit
here, right? It's just normal.
at the audit meeting that Andy, myself, Bob, and Owen were present, where we went through these figures in detail.
Yeah.
When they were presented to you the last month, yes, there were some basic questions, but essentially, I think everyone went away feeling happy with that budget. So my guess is, by the sound of it, I think the consensus would be that we're happy with the budget. But if you need that information from Somerset, then at the next meeting, as long as you've got that next meeting, we can just rubber stamp that.
Once you've got the information,
Yes.
once you can
And
download.
if you circulate it,
Extended.
I can. Most of the time I extend.
Yeah. Okay. Have you highlighted extended?
Yeah.
I mean, very broad brush following what Colin said. We basically ended up with a budget
Once you can fix it.
of about.
There it goes.
There you go.
Well done, David.
I don't know what I've done.
I don't know what you did, which is rather a pity, because
Press
so we're not losing it.
Yeah,
Don't click on
don't play with that menu when you're right.
No, I won't.
I think it's duplicate, yeah,
It's
yeah.
Right, okay, so if we look at the numbers, as I say, down on the forecast to March 31st, 2026, are as they were before, and what I've simply done is taken the figures that went up to September, and then I've projected across what is likely to happen to the end of March, which will give us the end of year figure, so we know what the end of year figure is. And then on the right-hand side, on the very, very right-hand side of the D column, is where we discussed last time the sort of numbers that would form the budget for the next financial year. Okay, so that was really the purpose, and what we came out with, and as I say, these haven't changed. Forecast of 98,000 against a budget of 57. But of course, you've got to remember that we had that massive play equipment purchase, which pushed that figure up to quite a high level. But of course, that came out of reserves. So, so the budget which we looked at was 72 going forward, and which in fact, if you look at it, if you think about it, 72,000, just in rough terms, how I like to look at it is our expenditure and our precept should be somewhere close, because there's the reserve to take account of, which I'll come on to in a minute. But basically, there should be a synergy between what your budget is and what your precept is. There should be some sort of relationship. And on that basis, that 72,000 budget is about £3,000 more than what we originally thought the precept should be. So if we looked at, for example, the precept calculator back here, that's the reserves, precept calculator, that takes a figure to 67,913. Now that's a little bit lower than I originally thought of, because I actually thought it was 69 on the original ones, but it was between 67 and 69,000. Preset requirement if we wanted to keep 6 months reserves. And 6 months reserves, could use that figure.
Can you click on that's the lower of the 67?
That one. Is there a calculation?
F34.
So yeah, that's based on that.
That's not right. So the one that we corrected, it came out at 69,966.
Yeah, which I think is the
reason.
the revised
Yeah,
one.
that was one of the glitches. Right? This is just simply copying that.
That's
one
just
there,
copying that
which
cell,
is
yeah.
not right.
Let me come out and find the other one because I can't get into it now. But, there's two here actually. That's where it got a little bit confusing.
There's also, just
I did draft
from the original draft that we looked at, the forecast for 31st 26 totals has gone up to 98 from 81, which I think is the play equipment.
It's a black one, yeah. Because what I did,
It might be worth just putting a note
Yeah.
at the bottom there.
what I actually did was, and I've never done it before because we've never had. If you take the shop out of the mix, I've never actually had such a large amount on one item.
Yeah.
So I took it originally. I took it off the budget figure because I thought actually technically it's not really part of the budget because we took it from reserves. On the other hand, when it comes to the audit, it'll have to be shown as a total expenditure.
I
So
think
that's it.
I think it's just a footnote, isn't it?
Yeah. So the reserves calculator now should show us the right figure. And see, it's gone down now. I think. It's gone to 66. And that's with 37. So I just don't know what's happened there actually. Because that was correct this morning. It showed 69,000 right this morning.
Was the formula in 37?
Cheap software.
35, 33 and 33.
66 is F35, which is that one,
Cost.
plus F33, which is that
What is
one,
the last bit?
which is our target reserves, minus F32, which is the general reserve.
Printed onto the version 5 one that we have, and that's where it came to 69.
Right, okay, so
I
that,
think you might just
Which
pick
is-
up an old
I think I might
version of that.
pulled some wrong figures across there, but basically this was 69,000, which was the correct figure. And that was based on a 6-month reserve, because you could go in here between 3 months and 12 months, we've got 6 months. And our general reserve of 34,000 at the end of the forecast period. So, as I say, there has to be a relationship between that 69,000 precept and the budget, and it's within sort of 3,000-ish. Now you can change anything you like on the budget. I mean, the budget, going back to the beginning there, anything on that right-hand side, mostly anything there can change if it's thought that was appropriate. But I think the best thing for me to do is send this to you, and you can have a look at it in peace and quiet in a darkened room somewhere, and see what you think about the amounts that I projected across to see whether they're correct or not. Because you might say, well, actually, we will be spending more money on footpaths or more money on something else on the village maintenance side. Obviously I put in Jason's figures and I put in Inkling's figures, which are two quite important numbers because they're pretty static. And there are things like subscriptions and stuff like that which you can't change. A bit here,
Yes,
which you can change.
Yeah, funny enough, I was just going to ask about Ashley Baker has disappeared from the reserves,
Yes.
but you've got him in. You've got him in
Forecast.
there now,
Yes.
and you've taken out all our play reserves, so we've got no play reserves
Yeah.
at the moment.
That's right.
And have we got no play reserve in our budget for the following year?
We're putting in 2,500.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you look at that figure there,
yeah,
that's 2.5, we put that in again.
yeah. We'll still
Yeah.
we'll continue building it
Yeah.
up again. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I put them in green. The reason why I put them in green, people ask me this question, and I put them there because when it comes to the end of year, it's not expenditure. It's going from the budget to the reserves. It's not actually an expenditure item. And so when I do my end of year audit with AGAR, that does not get included because it's not an expenditure. So that's why I put it in a separate figure, but it's not included in the bottom line.
Which is why you needed to put it in the total because we spent it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's double entry.
Yeah. So it kind of works. This is quite a complicated spreadsheet actually. Some councils that I've experienced recently with my own have a very basic way of looking at it. They just simply look at last year, add a bit, and say, well, that's the precept. Well, of course, we've always done it in a slightly more complex way. But of course, when you do that, sometimes you're fraught with a few little calculative errors and things which you have to just double check. But these are the correct figures.
And based on that 72,000 there, in effect, we would be looking at precepting fractionally under 17,000 because we've got some left over from last year. That would be a rise of just under 3%.
Yeah, which is inflation.
Yeah.
So unless you had some great big expenditure plan to do something major, like something worth 5, 6, 7, 8,000, which should, if there was anything, that should go in the budget, obviously, because that would affect the precept.
But everything we've got planned is in there from the last. So at the moment, we've got the floods, we've got everything else built into this.
Yeah.
So it's anything that we haven't discussed.
What you haven't discussed, yeah, exactly.
Colin.
Forgotten what I was going to ask. The information from Somerset on the rateable values, etc., how will that affect our decision?
So basically what that means is that it doesn't affect our budgeting, but what it will affect is the level of Band D council tax that people pay in the village. So for example, if you got our budget set the same as last year, but there have been a dozen houses built in the village, then each one will pay a little bit less. What also happens the other way is if 20 people manage to apply for relief on their council tax, then that would push it the other way because it would have to be spread amongst those who are left in pain. So that's why we can't work that out. It has to be Somerset once they've got all the returns as to how many houses, properties there are, what bands they fall in. Because again, if a particular village maybe had a campaign to get banding to change of certain properties because people have been misbanded, then obviously if they move down the bands, it means everyone overall has to pay a little bit more to make up for the fact that they've gone down. So that's the sort of calculation that Somerset will be doing.
Yeah, but that won't affect.
But it won't affect our setting of budget.
But it does affect, when I bring it to you, I should bring you all the bands and how that affects each of the bands in an ideal situation, because you are looking at the total council tax take. And of course it's important because somebody could come up to you in the village and say, well, actually, you set the precept at whatever. If they do ask such questions, I'm sure somebody does from time to time. How does that affect my property? Because I'm in a band F or band G. You can say, well, actually, it's going to be £100 a year or whatever.
And certainly in some of the other villages where they have kept their tax exactly the same, and then their council tax bills have been slightly different, people get very confused as to why, and that's the reason is because there are changes to the number of dwellings and the bands they're in.
We've got, actually, we have until the 23rd of February is the very latest date. So technically we've got 2 meetings. February is a bit late. I think it has to be January. And most parish councils put their request in January. Very few do it in December. Some might, but only very many do. So if you're happy for me to send that information out to you before the next meeting, hopefully with the tax bands that are affected by it as well, so you can see what each, that's probably the way forward actually. And I'm going to need to look again at the spreadsheet in terms of just making sure I've got the right version of it before I send it out to you.
That's mainly on the precept calc, isn't it?
This front
one's accurate.
Yeah, the front one's fine. The front one exactly how we originally set it, and we had that meeting, and that was fine. And I don't think much has come from it since then. So,
So is everyone happy with work on that basis?
on January,
Yes.
Everyone will have the figures circulated before the next meeting, and then we make the final decision at the January meeting. Okay, thank you very much. As consideration, national grid proposals.
yeah, we met up with Gareth Howells, who we dealt with when the shop was being developed. He first of all asked to meet with me about a couple of months ago, actually, and I said to him at the time, you know, about councillors. No, he said, I just want to talk to you. So, you know, so that's a bit strange. Anyway, he said the reason why I just wanted to get, first of all, I just want to tell you what our proposal is before I get into a discussion. So then we had another meeting with Bob and David. We had a meeting with Gareth, and we discussed, didn't we, the area behind the car park, which is just inside the sort of fenced gate area. And they seemed happy with that, didn't they? Because initially they were looking at the car park front space, which would of course impede potentially people's views of the road. But he was happy to consider the bit inside the green there. They're very anxious to do it fairly speedily, because obviously there's outage issues. And one of the things that they want to do, one thing they would have to do, we would have to transfer the title of that piece of land to National Grid. In other words, they'll take the freehold of that piece of the land. They never site substations on land that they don't own. So they would want to take it from us. So there's a legal process in which we would have to go through. And I have taken advice from South as to whether we have the powers to sell bits of land in that way, and we do. We can do so, particularly for public benefit.
They give you a small contribution for it, don't they?
They do. They're happy to give us. In fact, we did talk about lines and white lines. One of the things that we thought would be quite a useful thing to have all those white lines down in the car park. But council may have other ideas, but that was one of the things we put. Electric chargers, that's another thing we kind of discussed. And there was one other thing, wasn't it? One other thing. There were three things. Main two things. They were the main two things. But they're very anxious to get on and do it fairly quickly. You know, it's not going to be a long, drawn-out process.
Can we know the kind of square meterage that they would be potentially having one of us?
3 meters by 4 or 5 meters.
3 or 5.
So if say 15-ish. And what about the right of way across to it? Because what happens if they need to get to it in a car park school?
So have you got the email that you sent with the plan?
Yeah, I've got the plan here actually.
So what they're talking about potentially doing is if they would cite it as was mentioned at the last meeting on the village green, not taking up the car park space. They would then want to have an access gate to it from the green next to where our gate currently goes on, so it wouldn't reduce the car parking spaces, but they would need to, as you quite rightly said, they need to have a right of access to get across to it.
Oh, they're going to do the fencing for us.
Yes.
Or there's a new fence all along the front of the car.
Yeah, because I was going to say that kind of space. I think we need to be pushing them for sort of a hefty contribution. It needs to be substantial, because once it's gone. We've let that go then. And we would have to, like you said, they would. I mean, we've already got, a difficulty with car parking. It's at a premium, so we don't want to be saying, well,
they're not taking any car parking space.
no, but they would have to access it. So if we have to say that gate's got to be kept clear at all times, and that's going to limit.
It won't affect.
If you have a look at the plan, you'll see the access to them would be beyond where the cars are parked.
Yeah.
So it was not, it wouldn't obstruct a car park space.
It's only a pedestrian.
What about the tree?
The tree would have to go.
Right.
So they wouldn't want to drive into it.
No,
then?
it's not
That's the original case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're only walking in. I was thinking they'd have to have
They don't
5
need-
car gate
They don't
access.
need it.
Yeah.
Tracy.
If we had car charging, can we get an income? Are we allowed to have an income?
Oh, yeah.
Probably
That we would need to check. I mean, in terms of the, I think what they were offering was that they would make provision available, because one of the things is at the moment there isn't sufficient power in that area to allow any charging. This would allow them to give capacity to do that. If we went down the route of the thing that Somerset Council was talking about, then that would not be a direct income to us. It would be a private thing, because they pay to put it in, and they obviously over a period of time get their money back through the charging for it. But what National Grid would do is make sure there is the capacity for it, and would make sure that would be available should someone have the ability to provide the car parking charging.
If you put parking things there, you will be losing car park, won't you? Because you won't be getting a normal car parking in that space,
If we
because
put charges,
it
that would be
gets
something.
more.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose parking spaces straight away. Whether you're going to put one there or two there, you're going to lose parking spaces either way.
And that would be a discussion then at that stage, whether
Yeah.
which is the preferable.
Or people with electric cars get permanent parking space.
Well, they will
Like
do,
a
won't
normal, yeah. Which is what happens in normal car parks.
they? But if you park there, look,
It'll
and
be
someone
plugged
that
in.
wants to charge, they can actually get that vehicle removed off that thing, because it is against the law to park at the charging point.
I mean,
That's the trouble.
the car park is so small anyway that it's first come, first served anyway, and if not, you park on the road. And if you happen to have, I think the point you make of, I'm not an electric car owner, but I park it in an electric car, that's a no-no. But I think anybody who's got any sense would know not to park in a charging point. But,
You sit there on a school toy, no, they just park anywhere at the moment. They will park in there.
okay, well.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I do want electric parking points, but I'm not sure whether we should get involved in the commercial angle of it.
It causes a lot of arguments, I think, if we had it.
But I think at the moment what we're doing is we're making sure the ability to do it is there. We can decide
absolutely.
whether we actually do it.
Absolutely.
But we need the new substation anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
So,
Certainly from what he was saying to us, there are quite a number of properties basically beyond the green that are suffering from power outages and power fluctuations at the moment, so that's why they want to do it.
And it's that plastic box as such, or it's another transformer on the green load we had. That was his sort of options. We'll have something, so it's better to work with them and get benefits for
It's
us
a station.
rather than having a
Definitely,
delightful
that's,
thing on a pole down in the corner again.
Colin?
A quick question: if we've got to transfer a piece of our land as part of the deal, probably they should pay our legal costs, because that is far greater than having any posh stuff. But fencing and our legal costs, so we're in a nil.
I think it's up to us to put that to them and say that's what we would expect.
Yeah.
That's what we
So
require.
we're basically, we want it at no cost to us, and we want the fencing put in a good state once it's been done, and we want the white lines on the car park sorted.
Yeah.
Play equipment.
Yeah,
Try to get as much as we can out
I think
of
we
them.
need to push it because it's it is
It's
important.
finding that balance though, because
I think they'll just say we're going to put a
Yeah,
transformer back
yeah.
in the
No,
corner.
you can't.
Because that's what he basically.
Costs.
Well, in a roundabout way, that's what he.
No.
yes,
We're going to have something.
So, and also the fact that we're doing this for the benefit of residents, and we were seen to be holding, in effect, those residents almost to ransom for the fact that us getting
I mean,
Yeah.
I assume, for instance, they pay for the cost of taking the tree down.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
You
what we
know,
will
all
be-
this
yeah,
is going to mount up.
Yes.
You know,
Well, it'd be several thousand, wouldn't it?
absolutely. Yeah, we don't want to get involved with anything associated with it. That's my view where we can.
Okay. Is everyone happy then that we get back to them on that basis?
I'm getting back here.
The other thing is, I think, as Owen mentioned, the distinct impression he gave us was he does not want this to be a long, drawn-out thing. They want to get on with this because they've got this issue with customers. So we don't know the timescale yet, but as soon as we know, we'll come back. But I don't think it's not going to be months and months away. I think they will want to get on with it Yes, fairly soon.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you then, the best thing is for us to say, yes, you draw up the plans, you get your legal team in place, and then just give it and we can just say yes. And
It'll be a cost for £1, basically.
Yes.
We'll sell it to them for £1.
Yeah, because on the
Yeah.
inside will
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? All in favour?
Good, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we've done the
Website.
done the
Nothing, no update on the Dropbox for the
No,
shop yet?
that's-
I'm still waiting for Spirit to contact me and that, so.
Okay, then Amanda, and Aid report on the preparedness meeting on the 15th of October.
Do you start? No, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amy and I attended this day thing, and we obviously went to the talks which were relevant to the flood plan that we're trying to put in place. We sat in on lots of lectures of people that have put flood plans in place. They came up with various different things. AD has done a lot of work since that meeting, researching some of the stuff that we went through with them. And though a few things came back, that there was quite a few pieces of equipment that they listed off, and things that we like cross-checked, stuff we had and stuff that we need. AD has got the training and the qualification to use some of this equipment, so that was quite a good thing. They did come up with a few other ideas for things that were relevant to us, because obviously a lot of their stuff was flood related to river catchment areas, which obviously didn't apply to us, but some of the things that they came up with were quite useful, which was like they had adopt a drain, which is down to people taking the drain, say, outside their house, making sure it's clear of leaves, and if it's building up and it's like overflowing into the road, to contact somebody, say us, and we could get the relevant person in place to say, right, why is that flooding? Because I know there is, like outside your house, it's really bad. And I went there the other day, there's no leaves there, but you can see it's absolutely full of rotted leaves, silt and stuff, and that's all.
But it's got a blue tag on it, and when they come round and do the drains, they won't touch that one.
No,
And I don't understand why.
there's a
They've
thing
been
that,
twice,
yeah,
and they've been through it both times.
that
I
was
was
the
going to raise
the
that.
thing that we were looking at. There was also, what else? Though there's a thing about obviously getting to the members of the public and explaining to them that if they have a water course that's under their property, or that they filled in, or whatever, that they are responsible for it, making sure that this is a public awareness thing. But also to put our plan in place to get one or two people who are the core organisers, which I would propose that AD does that, because he's got a lot of know-how on it, and I said, the relevant experience with the equipment. The other thing was that there is some grants available which we have tried to access, but because they are usually relevant to people who are experiencing flooding through rivers, that's not us. So we may still be having to get some of our own stuff. We may be able to get a few things that we've got.
Yeah.
Going and pulling on. If there's a flood at someone's house, mark it down, log it, everything, every single house that's in this community, in our parish, we should have a log of it. When there's a flood, it should be logged straight away, keeping a log of every flood that happens, whether it's minor, major, and then what you do, you calculate it all through the year, look at where the area is that's more at risk, and then when I've been speaking to them, you can put your plan in then, because you won't be getting no grants for what floods we have around here now. Nothing is registered as such. We got no, can you go back 5 years? Is it logged? Anything like that? There's nothing been logged.
Somerset Council was still waiting for them for an up-to-date area map and an old one of old drains going back 40, 50, 60, 70 years. So you should know where the old drains are compared to the new drains if they have.
They don't have it, they burned a lot when they got rid of Blacksbridge.
Well, they said there's some in this pipeline, so.
Matthew Wall said
Yeah.
there is a map that.
Yeah.
They're very limited.
Yeah,
He's-
but
Yeah, he
So
said
that's through the
there was,
IDB.
he said there's a map of all the watercourses in this village, even the ones that have been filled in onto people's properties and stuff. And he said he'd let us have that, which is obviously quite important if somebody says, "Oh, my garden's flooded," and we know it's because something's been filled in. Even if they've bought that property and they haven't filled it in themselves, they're still responsible for it. So I think that we were kind of considering what it might be an idea to have a bit of an awareness meeting, maybe in the hall, and say, or any residents will come and we'll have a chat about it, because obviously we need to get volunteers from outside
yeah.
this room.
Get a flood group with the actual locals, 2 or 3 from the council, and then the rest of the group would be made up of the locals. But you need to check every water course and that, like every single person's house and stuff like that. And if people have been flooded, then it should be logged and wiped off, because some people are flooding because there's 2 houses being built behind their land. Well, you should have sold the land in the first place then. Now you're being flooded and stuff like that. We've got to take into all account of that, because we have one bloke who had trouble with the farmer, and the whole village flooded. So they presented and said, look, we've got to do something. So what they've done, the farmer said, yeah, okay, we'll put a pipe in all the way across my field. And it came out to another water course, took the water away from there, and it was just the top end of the village that was flooding then. But that one single farmer didn't budge when he get flooded every time. But a single one farmer wouldn't do nothing. And they can't be prosecuted or nothing like that. But if they had him on board, the village wouldn't flood at all. Or that corner of that village wouldn't flood at all. But you must log everything down and have a group, try to get the locals, the parish, involved in a group.
Yeah.
Because to have grants and stuff like that, you can't just go up to someone and say, oh, we need a grant, we need 2 life vests, or we need, because we're not a deep flooding area.
So so the next steps then are to set up initially this flood.
I think so. I think and I think we need an awareness meeting. Yeah, and a sort of an awareness meeting so that people can. And it's like I said about that drain outside your house. You wonder how many others there are in the village that are a perpetual ticking bomb.
Well, they don't clean them unless you bring up.
Exactly, but it's like Andy said, there's an issue with that one. But if that's already, when we have like a heavy rainstorm, if that's already up over the curb, then you've got a problem. But if it's like Aid said, then all this kind of stuff needs logging. We need to say, right, we've got a problem here. We have like a map of hotspots, and also people who maybe can't get out of their houses in an emergency or things like that.
Have we heard back from the 2 gentlemen who came and spoke to us? They said they were going to provide us with a map of all
That was
water.
Matthew Hall, yeah. He did. Yeah, he said he was going to get us that map.
But you've not heard anything more, and I don't think it's happening.
No,
So,
we'll try and get hold of him otherwise. I'll try and get hold of him otherwise and ask him.
We've got the email they sent to us
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah.
so initially, in terms of who's taking it forward within the council, we've got Amanda and Adu obviously went off on the course. You're happy to continue to run with this?
Yeah, I was going to suggest there's a couple more meetings coming up soon as well. Amanda,
Yeah.
I was going to speak to her, see if we can go, and speak to you if you pay her.
Are there other members who are happy to be involved with getting involved with organising this? Because by the sounds of it, it's going to be heading back a bit like there was before, where it's a number of councillors, but also external people as well.
And then drawing of
Just as a suggestion, there's a lot of things that need to be done, suggested to be done. Looks like it needs to go into some form of plan, so that we can assign. I'm quite happy if you send me all the information, I'll set it up into a
Well,
project.
you've
plan for you
started,
with
but
dates.
That's what I've been
you've
doing.
started,
You've been doing it.
Amy's doing, yeah.
That's
Amy's-
what I've been doing.
Yeah, because in
If
the
you
afternoon,
needed help, I'd
in the
just have
afternoon,
Paul to-
yeah, I was going to say, the afternoon session that we sat in, that's what this whole village had done, hadn't they? And they gave us their templates, and we went through it and picked the bits that were relevant to, you know, to our,
If you wanted that,
situations.
I'd help.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so Davey's put in a lot of work, haven't you, and a lot of research on it. Say, a bloke said this, and you know, dug through it, haven't you, and
Because
stuff.
the councillor I spoke to, what, it was weird, but no, was it weird? No, it wasn't weird.
Where? What, were we with that?
Yeah. I spoke to him and he said, you know, you just got to make sure you log every single thing before you do anything. Knoll flood group we went to see,
Yeah.
and there was the 3 counties flood. They're called the 3 counties flood, and everyone seems to be going to them for advice because they've been through so much, and their flooding wasn't 2 inches; it was like 6 foot, and it was the whole street was totally blocked for hours and weeks and that lot. But I spoke to him, and like he said, if you get the council group sorted first, then get a meeting for the parish to come and join and have a talk about it and stuff like that, you're getting your flood prevention up and running. Because at the moment, we haven't got nothing, because nothing, like you said, the first priority is logging stuff. Always make sure it's logged, that if someone's got a flood, and they can come back 6 months later and say, oh, well, you have flooded last, 6 months ago. Well, did it?
Okay, so if we look then at having this group, which as I say, it sounds like it's probably Amy Amanda, and are there any other volunteers who want to get involved at this stage, or will just pull in as you go? Right, okay, all right.
But you were involved with it.
I don't want to force people into doing stuff.
On the administration.
Andy,
PowerPoints and stuff like that.
That'd be really
So we've
helpful.
got 4 members initially, doesn't mean you can't pull on other people if they
Yeah,
can help, because they'll
anybody
be,
wants to.
but it sounds like, obviously, drawing stuff together, you need to get something to go in local publicity in terms of letting people know what they need to do to join, but also, by the sounds of it, you need to have somebody's details as the flood contact amongst the useful contacts in the village magazine. So if there is something in your article saying, if there's a flood, make sure you tell this person or send this an email.
Yes.
Because we need to get that information out there. So, Andy.
Just on that, if we're going to set something like, if we're going to set all these new addresses up, we could set a council flood alert, emergency alert, a number of those categories, can't we?
Well, I would suggest that AD is the main point of contact, mainly because you've got all that experience with the lifeboats, with the fire service. You've very good know-how on the working
If we
of
set a
the
general
equipment.
puddle up,
Yeah.
a pool,
A puddle. I
it's
like what
it's
you
called a
did there.
puddle.
Yes.
It's called a
Or a pool, or a flood.
Well, it's if you set up these sets, then AD can get access and other people can get access.
Yeah.
And it's just general, and everybody knows where to go then.
Yeah.
There's no confusion.
And if you want the BKN at some stage, we can write something for the BKN.
Yeah.
I guess you probably a bit soon, just at the moment, until you get yourself a little more organised.
Well, even an issue, there could be something just saying, this is something we're starting.
Yes.
You could put it in for January, put it in for January.
Yeah, just get
January.
something.
Something for January.
So just like, deadline is 12th of December for January. You should-
What's the date?
The whole week
Yeah.
now.
Week 10 days, that sort of thing. So.
We get to,
We'll get something
Okay.
written up. Make sure there's.
And again, what we'll do is we'll do an item.
You should have like, when you've got a shop open morning, you can have the flood bit in with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well you can't just be cooking the bacon.
Well, after it.
Yeah.
Get people to come to support the
You will have to
shop.
take over the kitchen. No, I'll have to stand on that, I'll demand the
There's
store.
people looked at, and there's a list of people that when we put it out, not so long ago. There's loads
That's
of
right, because
volunteer
it's like you
help.
said, because there's already people in there for their
Yeah.
vacant
Well,
role.
no, there's a list of people that want to help with flooding.
But it was very thin, wasn't it? Very, informal, but it was very, sometimes you think, Jesus, it is, but it's very intense. But if anything like that comes up again, it is
There's a
worth
lot of
going.
information.
Yeah.
It was very good. It was very well presented by just
Well, I'll say anything I get to do with flooding or flood alleviation or whatever, I'll just make sure I pass it on.
Yeah.
even the vegetarian lunch, which AD coped with.
So on our working,
That's to say.
It was
just
vegetarian
to
lunch.
clarify then, also on our working groups, there'll be a flood group, which will be the 4 members that we've mentioned tonight, and then we'll make sure that's on the agenda each time so we can get an update as to how things are progressing and if there's other stuff you need to raise.
Yeah.
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
That's right. More flooding down the church.
Yes, so, update on that, to let you know, there's sort of good news and not so good news. The person who took over from the last person we were dealing with has now left. So we have now a new contact who is a Jenna Higgins, who is going to be our contact at FWAG. We have been advised though that FWAG have now had what they described as land range consent for the works that were being talked about. So in other words, they've said they are okay to be done. That's the works in the field and the wood. They have now passed that on to Somerset Rivers Authority, who are the ones who we're looking to help fund us through this. So it has moved forward a little bit, but this is, I think, the 4th person now we've dealt with at FWAG. So they are making progress. I know. But it is moving in the right direction. And just to clarify, FWAG is Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, so they're the ones who are helping work on that. So we are definitely making some progress, and we hopefully will give you some more updates at the next meeting. Annual play inspection, yeah. So that's on the agenda because I attended another parish councillor within my patch, where recently they have come under an insurance claim. Well, like you remember we did a number of years ago over someone who fell off the seesaw. They've had someone fall off a climbing frame. And one of the things that came up when they were going through the evidence that they required to make sure their insurance company were happy was that they had the same company doing their monthly inspections as were doing their annual inspection, and that was not seen as a good thing by the insurance company. They felt it would be better if you had a different person doing the annual, because then you're getting a second different set of eyes on it. So the reason we put this on the agenda was just to say our council, at the moment we have the same setup. We have one company doing both. Would members be happy if we looked at getting an alternative company to do the annual inspection? We are members of the Somerset Playing Fields Association, and they actually they commission people to come and do inspections. And I think it was about £100.
Which is roughly what we pay now at GB Sports. Yeah.
But it was really just to say, are you happy that we look at doing that, and whether we maybe get that inspection done sooner rather than later, so that we can then have in effect, an overall picture as to where we are with our playing equipment and whether there's anything we need to do.
Definitely.
Because I think the one thing about GB Sports, and I'm sure any other company as well, is that they get in this regularity of coming to the village green and doing the inspection. And you have to wonder sometimes whether it doesn't need another check. Because they're just sort of signing things off because they did it last month.
Just another pair of eyes.
Yeah. And there's been a few issues, the backboard area, the mud, that was one where they'd actually put that at very low risk. But actually, when you looked at it, it's quite high risk. So it's that kind of thing. I think we're just trying to make sure.
Definitely a good idea.
So we do that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Boundary Commission was something we sent around to you a little while ago. You'll remember quite a few number of months ago we were consulted about the redrawing of boundaries for the Somerset Council seats. Initially the plan was that the Boundary Commission came back with their proposals, which were single member wards pretty much across the whole of the Somerset, and that all seemed to be going ahead straightforwardly, we've now been notified that it's going back out, or it is now back out for reconsultation. I think, from what I am led to believe, there has been a potential threat of judicial review of what was done. And what they found was that when the unitary was first being set up, it was the plan of the unitary that you would have single member wards across the whole of the county, and that's what the lead that the commission took. When Somerset Council actually sent in their submission this time round, they didn't say they wanted all single member wards, they said primarily single member wards. And because of that difference, the commission are worried that because they went ahead with all single member wards and took it that that's what Somerset wanted, it could leave them open to challenge, because technically that's not what Somerset put in their application. So that's why they're back out for reconsultation. And it was really just all we're saying to, or is being sent across to all the councils, is if you sent in comments last time saying that's what you were generally happy with, it's worth reiterating that, because it is back out for another consultation and they could come up with a different response. The concern that I have with it not being a single member ward is because they're making fewer seats. If you go for multi-member wards, your seats are going to become that much bigger. At the moment, I mean, Tony and myself cover 10 parishes. Under the single member wards, I'd be covering, my patch would be 7 parishes. So if you can imagine, if you have a secondary, it would be covering up to places like Cheddar, part of Cheddar, Axbridge, and all that sort of area. So you'd be talking about a lot of areas that someone would be covering, and therefore you don't have that closeness with the parishes that you're representing. So it was really just to ask if members were happy that we again reiterate the fact that single member wards are probably better for representation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it on the matters of consideration. Okay, so matters of report. Jane?
No.
Aid?
No.
Excellent. Amanda?
I've got lots. Don't make a face. One of them was the Christmas tree thing, which
Up at
I
church.
said to Owen, and he said I should bring it up now. Because what it is we're obviously entering a tree for parish council, but I was hoping that somebody might want to do it instead of me, because we've entered the tree, but somebody needs to put in a little tree saying parish council. If anyone would love to do it, then they could, otherwise I'll have to do it.
Are there any volunteers? Jane?
Well,
You look like you're about to say
Well,
something.
what are we decorating
Your
the tree
children.
with?
Anything you like. Literally
Faces of
anything.
parishes.
Anything. Anything. It can be anything. All it is so that the parish council have an exhibit
Yes.
in the. I've got to be an elf 2 days on the trot. I've got to do the raffle. I've got to enter other trees.
I've
Have
built
you got
one
the
today.
Have we got a tree?
No.
No, you can build them as well. I built one today
No.
for the Army Oiler. Massive.
I did have a false one that I've used the last couple of years, but it wasn't much cop.
Right.
So it's going into Santa's Grotto. But it's falling to pieces. It's not really, it can't be on display. It's not much good. If you want a little tree, you look like a king.
I'm just thinking how all the councillors could contribute
They probably don't all
to
want to.
decorating of the tree. I'm not looking at anybody.
It could just be a tree,
But-
anything.
So Jane, are you wanting to coordinate?
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
All
So and the other thing that I was going to say is that I've asked about it before, but a big map to go up at the on the wall at the bottom of Windy Ridge, not Windy Ridge, at the bottom of Manor Farm driveway, due to the confusion of the map. And so maybe we can talk about that next time.
We can get that blown up.
I
Yeah.
think that's it.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have another look at that.
Tracy?
No.
Colin?
No, but I'll help Jen.
You can make biscuits to go with it.
I think I'd just like to know what sort of tree, whether we can go and buy one. Or
Anything. It doesn't make any
I've just an
difference.
idea is just cheaped into my mind.
Okay, well, we'll
Very
take
simple.
that then. Yeah. Andy? Nothing from me. Okay, thank you all very much. We'll close the meeting and wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Every time you say nothing from me, and I always think you're going to say everything from him.